without an understanding of how multilingual learners differ from their monolingual peers, we can miss the mark on whether we need to move forward with an evaluation of a suspected disability. Will you share some of the things you've encountered, the experiences that you've had in ways that people have gone about this maybe not the right way?
Yes, I would love to. So what's interesting is as we started working on this training, we worked on this training both with our Title III office, which is our multilingual program office at the State Department, and then also our Office of Early Learning and Literacy, who's in charge of MTSS. So originally this was kind of housed under MTSS for multilingual learners. But what we started running into is as we were providing the training actually to the multilingual teachers, and everybody calls them something different, a TESOL teacher, teachers of English of a second language, what we kept running into is those teachers would tell us the gatekeepers, the people keeping the students, multilingual students who there was a suspicion of a disability from getting even to the point of a referral process or an evaluation process, were the evaluators, were the speech language pathologists and the school psychologist. And a lot of that was because there is part of the federal law when we talk about exclusionary factors, it says limited English proficiency can't be an exclusionary factor. But the whole thing is there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of that doesn't mean they have to be proficient in English. So what we actually turned the whole training into was something instead that we call systematic investigative routines for suspicion of a disability in a multilingual learner. Basically to show that even if you have a child who you're considering intervention through MTSS, it's got to be approached differently for a multilingual learner, mostly because you have a whole separate set of factors to consider than if you're a monolingual child. And a lot of that is, what has that instruction looked like? What is their stage of language acquisition? What do we know about that child's developmental history in their language and their schooling? Like, there's just so many more questions that need to be asked. And you can't do it without that multilingual teacher. And so making sure that we're including that multilingual teacher and the parent and translators, interpreters, to make sure that we're getting all of the information from the parents, it just became very clear that this needed to be outlined as a completely different process with a completely different mindset. The other piece to it too, especially for speech language pathologists, is there's parts of federal law in terms of the evaluation itself. And it outlines very clearly that the evaluation cannot be discriminatory on a racial or cultural basis, and it has to be administered in the child's native language unless it's clearly not feasible to do so. Can you tell I have that tattooed like on the inside of my forehead? And so it's really having someone break down, what does that actually mean to not have an evaluation that's potentially discriminatory? And then how do you evaluate a child whose native language you don't speak? And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but making sure that we're getting that information out to school-based SLPs on the requirements of IDEA, because it's federal law, has just been something that I feel very passionate about, making sure you're equipped with all the information you need to know.